Tonight, legalized abortion on the line. The Mississippi abortion case that could overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion in the United States.
This is the first time in 30 years that the court has been explicitly asked to overturn Roe.
Plus, the Omicron variant, the president urging concern but not panic, even as vaccines could be less effective. This as the F.D.A. considers a new treatment for COVID-19.
The pills will hold up fine because the mechanism by which the pills work should not be affected by the variant.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The case that could overturn Roe v. Wade. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder. It's a Supreme Court abortion case everyone is watching on both sides of the political aisle. Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. The big question, could it overturn Roe v. Wade? In tonight's top story, Heather Sells reports on this pivotal case that's about to go before the Supreme Court.
In the Dobbs case, the court will consider whether or not pre-viability bans on abortion are constitutional. And in doing so, it could overrule its landmark case of almost 50 years ago, Roe v. Wade.
This is the case for everyone to be watching, to see what is that standard. You know, are we able to restrict abortion prior to viability?
Two prominent abortion fighters, Americans United for Life President Catherine Foster and Susan B. Anthony List President Marjorie Dannenfelser, say it's hard to overstate this case's importance.
I think that because 4 Supreme Court justices had to agree to take up this law, that they were pretty sure that they had some sort of consensus to alter the current Supreme Court view of Roe versus Wade.
The court will consider a Mississippi law that prohibits abortion after 15 weeks, except for a medical emergency or severe fetal abnormality. What's radical is that in asking the court to uphold its state law, Mississippi is directly challenging the precedent in Roe and the 1992 decision in Casey v. Planned Parenthood, a clear ruling that states cannot ban pre-viability abortions. That is, abortions before a child can survive outside the womb.
This is the first time in 30 years that the court has been explicitly asked to overturn Roe.
Roe declared that the right to privacy includes the right for women to choose abortion, and it warned that denying abortion would bring hardship. In Casey, the court argued that women had come to rely on it.
It turned into the big lie. There is economic freedom.
To tell us that we can't just survive, that we can't be women in America without legalized abortion, what an offensive notion. We should be able to do that. That's what we're built for.
In Casey, the court also used stare decisis, the legal principle that courts must follow precedent to justify Roe. Foster and many other scholars insist, however, that many reasons exist for overturning Roe, including social unrest, which shows that it is not settled.
In fact, Supreme Court Justice now Amy Coney Barrett, in her confirmation hearings, she was asked if she believed that Roe was a settled issue. And her response, it hit the nail on the head. She said, well, I keep getting questions about Roe, which I think to me says that it's not settled.
Across the country, rallies to reverse Roe have begun. Even if the court doesn't decide to overturn, it could still uphold the Mississippi law, signaling to states that the door is open for more restrictions. But Foster and Dannenfelser are preparing for Roe to be overhauled and looking to the states.
The people who really are focused on this are the governors of this country, and they are the new leaders when it comes to the pro-life issue.
Dannenfelser is especially mindful of states with so-called trigger laws that could immediately outlaw abortion if Roe is overturned. They'll need extra political and legislative help, plus services for women. For Foster, the work is personal as well. She had an abortion 20 years ago.
I know what it's like to sit in that waiting room and feel so conflicted, and the feelings of fear and helplessness and just totally out of control.
For almost 50 years, Roe has encouraged and paved the way for such abortions. Now, Foster, Dannenfelser, and untold women and men are wondering if we're on the verge of a new era.
On December 1st, due to COVID restrictions, the public will not be allowed inside the court, but outside large crowds are expected in anticipation of a ruling in the months to come that could radically alter the abortion landscape. Reporting in Washington, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, on the eve of this hearing, tensions are running high across the country as protesters start to gather outside the Marble Palace. That is where we find our senior Washington correspondent, Tara Mergener. Tara.
Jenna, issues don't get any more emotional than this one, but this today may be the calm before the storm. People kind of coming and going, mostly on the pro-life side, in anticipation of tomorrow. This is the most significant challenge to Roe v. Wade in 30 years. And again, protests and a lot of people here expected to line the steps of the Supreme Court tomorrow. This was the scene most of the day. Earlier, people coming, press conferences. One just ended, prayers and singing to prepare for the start of Dobbs v. Jackson, now before the Supreme Court. Again, involving that 2018 law in Mississippi restricting most abortions after 15 weeks. Those who came here today are being urged to fast and repent and come together as a church. Abortion-free states is among the groups urging folks to mobilize on behalf of pro-life. Take a listen to why this Maryland woman came here a day early.
I just believe that from the womb to the tomb, everybody should have a voice and freedom, and I feel like that we are killing unborn babies. I really believe that life begins at conception. And with that, that strikes in me that we are killing babies, like just the same as a 1-week-old.
Now, there was not a big turnout today on the pro-choice side, but this man came here all the way from Boulder, Colorado, to get here before the case started.
The state getting involved in a decision as intimate as whether or not to carry a pregnancy to term is, I think, unacceptable under our Constitution. And I'm very concerned about it. I'm very concerned about it.
Now, arguments start tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. They will last about 70 minutes, but a ruling on this case is not expected for several months. It may take until June. That's when the High Court releases most of its high-profile decisions. Jenna?
All right, Tara Mergener at the Supreme Court for us. Thank you, Tara. Well, tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence is predicting the end of Roe v. Wade. Today in a speech, he said, quote, "We are asking the court to make history." CBN News chief political analyst David Brody spoke with the vice president after that speech at the National Press Club in Washington.
And I truly believe that with the new conservative majority on the Supreme Court of the United States, we have a profound opportunity to have a new beginning for life. I have to tell you, during the course of our administration, President Trump had me interview all of the finalists for the Supreme Court. I was able to spend time with Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Neil Gorsuch before they were appointed.
Right. You feel confident.
And I will tell you that they are men and women of integrity and conviction, and I'm just going to be joining a great chorus of Americans that will be praying that they have the courage to seize this moment for life.
And here with us now is Catherine Glenn Foster, President and CEO of Americans United for Life. Catherine, welcome. It's great to have you with us this evening. Big day tomorrow. So the Vice President says this is the end of Roe v. Wade. What do you think about that?
I have so much hope about this case. Americans United for Life, we have been advocating for the human right to life for 50 years now, since before Roe v. Wade even existed. And I can tell you that this is the most significant, the most critical abortion case since Roe in 50 years. the Supreme Court finally has the opportunity to deliver justice for human rights. And I believe that the Supreme Court will deliver justice for human rights in this case.
Catherine, what will you be looking for tomorrow to see kind of which way the court is leaning?
I will certainly be looking at the justices' questions, at their phrasing, at how engaged they are. One thing that's interesting here, back in 2019, 2 years ago, the Chief Justice said, well, we could overturn Roe, but no one's asking us to do it. Well, now Mississippi is asking the court to overturn Roe. The 20-plus states that signed on to Mississippi's brief are asking the court to overturn Roe. The 230-plus members of Congress who signed on to the Americans United for Life brief are asking the court to overturn Roe. The 50+% of Americans who oppose radical abortion on demand throughout pregnancy are asking the court to overturn Roe. And you have to ask yourself, how many more people have to ask before the court answers and finally begins to protect our most fundamental human right? So I'm going to be looking at how they address this issue. I'm going to be looking at their posturing, their questions, and just how intently they dig into the critical questions in this case.
Yeah, it's a big deal. We should mention, the United States is among 7 other countries, including China, where abortion is allowed after 20 weeks. So there's a lot at stake here. Catherine, is there something about the Mississippi case that would change the reading of the 14th Amendment and the right to privacy that now makes abortion legal federally?
Not necessarily. The court could go there, but just like this, like the Chief Justice said, most people aren't asking for that at this point. Right now, what we're looking for is just end that Roe v. Wade regime, because the American people are a life-loving people. They're a resilient people, and we are ready for Roe to go. When you look at the radical pro-abortion fringe, what they want to talk about is abortion. What they want is abortion and more talk about abortion. And what's at stake in this case is whether we can finally move beyond the abortion wars and start talking about life and options and hope and how we can actually support and empower and protect women and children throughout the spectrum of life.
Yeah, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, it would make it a state issue, not a federal issue. But even if the court doesn't decide to overturn Roe, Catherine, could it still uphold the Mississippi law?
It certainly could. That would be probably the most likely outcome in this case. The court could overturn Roe. The court could strike down this protective Mississippi law. I don't believe that's going to happen. But certainly I do believe that the court will, at a minimum, uphold this law and make steps towards, at a minimum, overturning Roe, if not overturning Roe altogether. Now is the time. Now is the moment. The court is being asked, and the court is making moves in this direction to protect life.
All right. Catherine Glenn Foster of Americans United for Life, thank you so much. We will all be watching tomorrow and waiting to see what happens. Thank you. And coming up, the latest on the COVID-19 Omicron variant and the White House response to a judge blocking the president's vaccine mandate. Welcome back. Omicron concerns are leading more medical experts to push vaccine boosters. The CDC now calling for everyone 18 and up to get additional protection. The announcement coming as research shows vaccines might not offer as much protection against the new variant. CBN's Brody Carter is here with the story. Brody?
Jenna, those new reports sent shockwaves through financial markets today, leading to massive market sell-offs. With Omicron already spreading across continents, concerns are growing about more potential lockdowns. And now a big question is how effective current vaccines are against this new variant.
We're learning more every day, and we'll share that information with the public.
Even though there are a lot of things about it that we do not know.
This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic.
Omicron and uncertainty are spreading across the globe, with about 200 cases confirmed in 19 countries. The severity and transmissibility of the variants are still unknown.
We are working around the clock to ensure we're doing everything we can to understand this new variant.
In a last-ditch effort to protect Americans, the CDC is doubling down on boosters, recommending a third shot for everyone 18 and up, and potentially expanding to 16 and 17-year-olds.
But we know that when you boost somebody, you elevate your level of protection very high. And we are hoping, and I think with good reason to feel good, that there will be some degree of protection.
But its success is questionable after the CEO of Moderna announced vaccines will be much less effective at tackling Omicron, saying, all the scientists I've talked to say this is not going to be good. All three vaccine makers are prepared to update their vaccines if necessary, although that could take months.
I know we're all tired of this, but the virus is not tired of us. Sign up for your booster today.
News of Omicron overshadowed a federal judge's temporary injunction Monday on the president's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers across 10 states. But the future remains uncertain. The president signaled lockdowns were off the table if Americans follow the rules.
If people are vaccinated and wear their masks, there's no need for the lockdown.
Epidemiologists say it will take roughly 2 weeks to learn exactly how severe and transmissible this variant of the virus really is. In the meantime, they're asking the 100 million Americans eligible for the booster to get one. Jenna, back to you.
All right, Brody Carter, thank you. And when we come back, inflation is no longer transitory, so says the Fed. What that could mean for you. Tonight, inflation is no longer transitory. In fact, the newly renominated chairman of the Fed expects inflation to carry over well into next year. Today, in a hearing on Capitol Hill, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the Fed may stop its bond buying program sooner than expected in order to help stem rising prices, which are at a 30-year high.
At this point, the economy is very strong and inflationary pressures are high, and it is therefore appropriate, in my view, to consider wrapping up the taper of our asset purchases, which we actually announced at the November meeting, perhaps a few months sooner.
By tapering its monetary policy and withdrawing economic support as soon as the Fed's mid-December meeting, the central bank hopes to stop subsidizing demand, ending its buyback mortgage-backed securities and open market purchases months earlier than expected. The news that the Fed is set to tighten the monetary spigot, coupled with new concerns from the COVID-19 Omicron variant, sent markets reeling. The Dow Jones tumbling around 600 points, the S&P down nearly 70 points. And joining us now, CBN News chief political analyst David Brody. David, the Fed chair said today they are retiring the word transitory when referring to inflation. Politically speaking, what does this mean for the Biden administration?
Well, you know, here's the thing, Jenna. When it comes to the economy, both sides love to spin it. You're going to have the conservatives spinning it one way, the liberals spinning it another way. The truth of the matter is, what's really important is not so much the term, but what it means. And specifically what it means is that Jerome Powell basically saying, as you pointed out, that we're looking at mid-2022 when he thinks inflation might start to dip or go down, if you will. And I think the timing is critical on all of this. I mean, this could be potentially good news for the Biden administration if there starts to be a dip in the inflation in this country right around those midterms. It might help to a degree politically to stave off some of the horrible losses that they could sustain politically in 2022 in the House and in the Senate, too.
Yeah, timing is everything indeed. Today you spoke with the vice president, former vice president, I should say, who predicted an end to Roe v. Wade. David, what struck you about that interview?
Well, I thought what was interesting is that he talked about how he interviewed, he was the last one to interview, actually, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, three of Donald Trump's Supreme Court justice picks, and he said that he felt confident. And that was pretty much the overall tone, that he felt confident that they were going to come to the right decision. So I got a sense in this interview today that, and he said this in his speech at the National Press Club, but I really felt, especially talking to him kind of off the record, if you will, in the room before and after the interview, that he believes that Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned by this Supreme Court. Now, I asked him about John Roberts, which is interesting because remember, Jenna, during that interview I had with Mike Pence in Florida during the campaign, he said that John Roberts was a major disappointment. Well, I asked him about that. He said he believes John Roberts actually will be good on this issue, on the abortion issue, that he's been a disappointment for sure, but on the life issue, he's feeling more comfortable with Roberts. So we'll see if it could be potentially a 5-4 or even a 6-3 decision if Roberts goes along with it. But we're a long way from any of that right now.
Yeah, we will see. Democratic Senator Jeannie Shaheen, she issued a warning, David, to the Supreme Court, claiming that a revolution will take place if the High Court overturns Roe. How much of a tinderbox is this issue on both sides of the aisle?
No, it's a big-time tinderbox, Jenna, and I have to say she's right to a degree. Maybe you don't use the word revolution, but then again, hey, look, Trump and the conservatives have been raked over the coals on January 6th for some of that language as well. But look, when it comes to revolution, if you're talking about a political revolution, I mean, this is going to get liberals in a major lather, a lather of a revolution, if you will, if the Supreme Court decides to overturn Roe v. Wade. Remember, that would happen if it happens in June or July of 2022, right before, once again, as you said, Jenna, timing is everything, right before the midterm elections. And so, yeah, this has a potential to actually help Democrats, even if they would lose on Roe v. Wade, which of course would be the top line, the significant portion of it. Politically, it actually might help them to get out the base in 2022. But, once again, I think it's going to be boy, I got to tell you, both sides are going to be fully engaged in this. This is, they always say the culture wars are dead in America. They're never dead in America. We know they're not. They just keep going. They morph into different things, and this is a big one.
Yeah, no doubt. David, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Big case tomorrow, and we'll all be watching. So David Brody, our CBN chief political analyst, thank you. Have a great night, David.
You too, Jen. Always a pleasure.
And still ahead, a Jurassic find in the Show Me State. And it may not be the only one. Finally tonight, the search is on. A fossil find in Missouri revealing the home of 4 rare dinosaurs. The 30-foot duck-billed dinosaur took years to excavate, and it's a species that's not been uncovered anywhere else. Take a look at this. This is so unique. The fossils were found on the Chronister family's property, the only place fossils have ever been found in Missouri. The first tracings were found way back in the 40s, but this most recent dig has scientists hoping to find many more. Very cool. And that is going to do it for Faith Nation this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Big news day tomorrow with this Roe v. Wade Dobbs case going before the Supreme Court, so tune in for that. We'll have full coverage. Thank you so much. Have a great night.